Welcome to the Relationship Cycle with Jorge and Nelsa, where we discuss dating and other significant relationships. Hola, papi.
Hola, how are you?
I am doing well. These new changes to our podcast platform have been interesting, to say the least. So
Yeah,
we made it happen.
that's technology for you. But hey, we got to roll with the punches and adapt. But today we have a pretty interesting show. As always, we focus on dating and relationships. And today, I have a good buddy of mine who's actually a certified personal trainer. He's been in this game for 10 years, so he knows a good bit about it. And it was actually kind of his idea that we kind of started talking about this, where how, health lifestyles impact people's relationships and dating. And
Right.
honestly, I've never really put too much thought into it up until when me and Dan were just he's actually my roommate as well. And we were just kind of chopping it up. And, he kind of started telling me some things about that, how it can have a big impact on a relationship. And I was like, you know what? That sounds like a podcast.
Absolutely. We love it when our listeners, even if they live with us, give us great ideas for a show. So shout out to Dan for that. So let's jump on in.
Let's do it.
So Dan, can you give us just a little bit of your background and what did you start hearing as far as healthy lifestyles and how it was affecting people?
How you guys doing? First of all, thanks for having me as
thanks for joining
a guest on the podcast. So my background, I've been a personal trainer for about 10 years now, and I've actually worked at multiple gyms, but I worked at one gym for about close to about 10 years. Like I said, I've worked at multiple gyms, but this one gym I worked at the majority of my time. I knew you guys did this podcast, and I've listened to episodes, and like Jorge said, I was sitting there one day and I just said, yeah, you should do a podcast about health style, like health and fitness and dating. And we just kind of started chopping it up and came up with some ideas, and I think we're in for a good show. We got a few good things to talk about.
So Dan, let me ask you, since you've trained several people, and obviously you've trained even people in relationships and marriages, or people that are dating, what have you noticed when you see that you feel that one person is either pushing or imposing a healthy lifestyle onto another person who maybe doesn't want to really do that?
That's actually a really good question. So, from my experience, I've always been the one who hasn't really been in a relationship, but I've seen like countless relationships from where I've worked, whether it's been like people, literally I've seen people on first dates, and I've seen people who've been like married for a really long time. And one thing that I would definitely bring up, and I definitely encourage your audience to think about is not just like relationship, but I would focus on like the type of person that you're living with, or the type of person that you're working with. Because from a personal trainer, like a physical therapist, or any sort of health profession, or any sort of profession in general, you want to know what type of person you're dealing with, whether it's a shy person, whether it's an outgoing person, whether it's like I said, shy or reserved, or somebody who just wants to really be pumped up, right? So from my experience looking at couples, whether it's been personal friends of mine, which most of the people at the gym I worked at were personal friends of mine and still are. I can tell when somebody tries to force something on somebody else, it never really works out, right? So
Right.
I'll repeat that because I kind of said it really fast. But when somebody tries to force something on something, it sort of a deterrent, right? And that goes along with, you know, any form of lifestyle, whether it's health, right? Whether it's, I know you guys did an episode on finance. Anything where you try to push something on the other people is going to drive them away, right? So,
Absolutely.
especially, I don't know if I'm sorry if I'm talking too much, but especially where I worked, right? We would do what's called like partner workouts. So I don't know if your listeners know about like CrossFit or different types of workouts, but what you would do, let's say I had a significant other, right? And I was like, all right, you're going to work out. What we would do is we would work out, right? It would be, let's say, for example, I'd say do 100 push-ups, right? If I do 10, you do 10, right? We're at 20. We have 80 more to go, right? So that's just an example. There was countless of other things we did.
Sure.
But what I would see, the big thing that I would see is either the husband or the wife, but which is kind of, this is kind of the key. Like one thing I really picked up on is kind of the male was more of the dominant person to say like, hey, do these many reps instead of that way. And I would sit there and observe, and I would sense tension, right? And that's what I was talking about. I was talking about earlier, where somebody tried to force something on their significant other, and I clearly knew they were significant others because I knew the members who were going to the gym, and it just turned into I wouldn't say a horrible backlash, but it turned into something that wasn't optimistic. It was more leading towards like a pessimistic way. That makes sense.
No, so let me ask you, from your perspective, as far as dating, have you had guys that, you know, you've dated and, you know, maybe gotten close to, and then you feel that they're trying to maybe not force something, but maybe trying to change some of your health habits? And, you know, what's your thoughts on that?
Yes, I have. And even in my marriage, I felt sometimes like my eating habits were critiqued really closely. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm an Aries and I'm a headstrong woman. And one of the worst things you can do is to try to motivate me by criticizing me and, you know, drawing attention to something that I already know needs to be fixed. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If my shirts and pants aren't fitting right, I already know that something needs to happen. But, you know, when I start getting a little thick, typically there's some emotion behind it that's not being met. And so when I feel like I'm being forced to change my eating habits or forced to go work out, or, you know, like you're trying to make me do better than what I'm doing right then, but I'm not getting the emotional need met underneath it, then I'm just like, to hell with it. I'm not doing it. Look, this, you know, that's my attitude becomes, you know, fuck it, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I have dated some men who, you know, were really like all about health and fitness, and, you know, every date was like, you know, let's walk, let's do this, let's do. I'm like, Lord, I'm tired. I just want to go home and take a nap. You know, some guys sleep shame you because I believe in naps. I believe rest is an important part. And, you know, I know, Dan, you probably are very aware of this as a trainer, but women's bodies physiologically go through so many different changes after babies, after you premenopausal, after hysterectomy, after, you know, you have all these things. Even the way we handle stress can be very different. And so a lot of times I felt like I was talking to men who wanted me to respond physically like a man, and my body is completely different. And so I was just like, you know what? I can see this is not going to work. But I'm not about to keep
You're like,
going back and forth with you about me.
you were like, this is good. This is gonna be a quick hook.
Right. So yes, and I do think some of it is based on, like women have a fairy tale version of what they want their relationships to look like, but I think men have a fairy tale version of what they want their women to look like. You know, that she's a bad mamma jamma messing people up. 30, what was it, 36, 24, 36, or whatever the measurements were. I was just like, I am not Barbie and I'm not aiming to be, but I do believe in good health. And that's one of the things I was going to ask you, Dan, like, when it came to even just wanting to come to the gym, like, I like to work out. I like to feel healthy. I like to do things to keep myself together and feeling good. But I have dated people who were overweight, who only wanted to play video games, only wanted to like eat fast food. And I did find that to be like more than I could handle as far as compatibility. Do you see couples uh sort of like going their separate ways after a while when they're not really on the same page as far as health?
Yeah, that's another good question. Yes and no. I would say the one example that I would use again is actually the people I used to work for. Right, it's a long story, but I'll make it short. The lady I worked for she was in the grand scheme of things a pusher, right? On the outside, she was as nice as could be. You introduce yourself, you're like, hi, I'm Dan. She'd be like, hi, I'm so and so. And when you judge the book by its cover, she's actually you thought like, wow, this is a really nice lady, right? But when you dug a little deeper, you kind of picked out that she was, like I said, a pusher. Now,
I like the way you say it. You're so polite. She's a pusher.
It was. I hate like throwing people under the bus, but it was a very narcissistic way of thinking. What she did was she became a vegan, right? And she basically was like, I live on this area of land with my family, including my husband. So my husband has to be a vegan as well. And if not, I'm going to make his life a living hell.
Oh, really?
Now, his husband, it's a real long story, but his husband owned this company, right? And back in 2016, I actually trained about 40, 50 people in this one big group class. And I could tell a noticeable difference from 2016 to 2021, about 5 years later, after I stopped teaching that class, and the gym that I worked for that was in Valentine moved over to this new location. The guy was, like I said, he ran this company, and he went from noticeably being extremely happy and loving to come to work out to almost putting on that face of having to be happy, right? Because as a CEO of a company, you gotta smile, you gotta shake hands, kiss babies, and all that. But like I said earlier, when you dig a little deep off that surface, you can really see how somebody is psychological, right?
And the way I would say with this is that now listen, I definitely don't want people to think that it's not possible to date someone with different styles or beliefs, because I do think it's possible, but I think something to consider, right? For example, me personally, right? When somebody says, hey, and I literally have to do this, I literally have looked up between vegan, vegetarian, and people who are gluten, who can't eat processed gluten, right? These are all real things that
health issues too.
It could be, because of health issues, or it could be because of personal choice.
Right.
But it's important to know, right, what they are so that you understand the person better. So whenever I do run into women who, are identify as one of those people with those, choices as far as health styles, I like to dig in and be like, hey, is this like a personal choice? Is this because of health reasons, or are you just trying to get in shape, or whatever the motive may be? So that way I can understand better, and so that I can, see where this person's coming from. So I think it is important to have those conversations and hear the person out, so that you see that, hey, this person is doing it because of health reasons, and not because, they hate meat, for instance, right? Or because they're trying to impose this on you. But at the same time, we've talked about this on the show before, no, so that anytime that we have someone who's blatantly trying to change who you are, and
Yes.
you're not the one initiating that change, that's going to have ramifications and consequences in the relationship and in the dynamic.
Absolutely. And to that point, our listeners are always really good to go and comment on our Facebook posts. And so Margot Payne was one of those that really caught my eye, because she said yes and no. She was kind of like you're saying, Jorge. She's been a vegetarian for 33 years, and she says as long as you're eating healthily, I don't care what you eat. When you start getting snack and junk food, then I care. I will cook you meat. I just can't eat it because I'm allergic to it. Now, other lifestyle things is usually a no. I'm gone and doing too much to work out with a homebody who wants to sit on the couch. And if you can't take care of your body, you probably can't take care of mine. She says,
Yeah, that sounds like Margot. She's a straight
listen,
shooter.
hey, I told her, I said, Margot Payne, that last line hit on the bullseye. She said, Nelsa Weber, and by take care of it, I mean all the ways. And I think that's one of the things where health intersects with, what do we expect our sexual health to look like in this relationship? What are we expecting from one another when it comes to time and attention, and being able to keep up with your partner in various ways. Like, you know, I don't know about y'all, but climbing the steps can sometimes make me feel like I need to get to the gym a little harder. And
Right.
so, like, who wants to be the one huffing and puffing when it comes down to some, uh, you know, uh, creative time with your partner,
Right.
and you're a sweaty mess? You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like,
Hell, that's my
breathing all
favorite kind
hard,
of
you think you
exercise.
need
I
a
don't know about you,
defibrillator.
but
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So I think there's a happy medium somewhere in there, like Margot says. Um, I'm not going to be so put out if I'm eating one way and you're eating another. But I still say, I think there has to be, you got to have a solid base, solid communication. And you do have to have, I think, some things in common.
right.
And the important things have to be, you got to be walking hand in hand. And we can't have everything like that. Opposites attract, they might attract, but they don't stay together, because magnets repel after a while. You know what I'm saying?
No,
Like,
listen, I think it's definitely now more than ever. I do think we have to be mindful when we are considering a partner for, dating purposes, right? Or relationship purposes. Hey, where do you fall on that? Because you don't want to wait down the road when you're really into this person, and then you realize that, hey, I'm vegan and I can't even stand the smell of meat.
mm-hmm.
And then you're like, well, hell, if you're a person like me that, loves to eat a steak every few weeks, and I love cooking them, obviously, even something that minuscule can really
that's
create tension.
that's gonna be a girls' night out the day you cook.
Steak nut equals girl, baby girl.
Right. Listen, but Manuel Torres Jr. says on his, yeah, I think you had said something about common ground and compromise is a key ingredient to healthy relationships and dating, but it's elusive too. And he says, Jorge Medina, I agree. Still not worth the risk in that scenario. And he was talking about, you know, getting healthy, I guess, and working out, and not just eating. He said, that's a pass for me. 4 billion women on this earth to compromise my healthy lifestyle, while clearly the opposite. I'd rather compromise with someone I have things in common with. So he said, good luck cooking a steak in your own household with a vegan around. But I love, Dan, you know, you live over there with Jorge, so you can say, you can understand this. He said, Manuel Torres Jr., laughing faces. I don't sacrifice steak for nobody, dog.
Oh hell no! I don't. Look, may God strike me, right? There's a woman that can convince me, but I'll be damned if I'm gonna go out fighting. I'm gonna go out swinging. But like, here's the thing though, and Dan brought this up when we initially kind of were talking about this discussion, and on the surface, right, your partner pushing you to eat healthy or to go to the gym, on the surface it sounds, you know, like it's like it's a good thing and with good intent, right?
Right.
However, when you give in to something that you really did not willingly want to,
right,
what ends up happening is, Dan brought this up, is that this tends to spill over into other aspects of your relationship as well.
yes.
So if your partner pushes you to be vegan, right, or pushes you to go to the gym, even though you really don't like going to the gym, that is ultimately going to result in your significant other pushing other things on you. And if you don't set the proper boundaries, or if you don't stand up for yourself, for lack of a better phrase, then that's going to start spilling over into creating a lot of tension and walking on eggshells. And that is a recipe for disaster.
And resentment is one of the things that I was thinking about. Dan, have you seen couples kind of come unglued in the gym as you've seen, you know, one partner be the pusher, as you put it?
Yeah, I wouldn't say like I've seen people become unglued or like separate, but I was telling Jorge actually before the show, we were talking, and I told him that I've worked with like a lot of people, and I feel like I'm not trying to like brag or anything like that, but I feel like I have a natural aptitude leading people, and I could just tell, not just with that one couple that I mentioned, but even with other folks too, I could tell when friction is awry, and I could tell because of how they would come into the gym, how they would carry themselves, whether it's straight couples or lesbian couples, because or gay couples, because I've worked with all of them. So, and when one person tries to push something onto somebody else, it just doesn't work out. So something that we were talking about, excuse me, is working out could also be better. There are also a lot of positive side effects from working out as well.
Give me some reasons or some things that you see when couples do mutually enjoy working out together. Like, how do you feel that can be a good thing for their relationship and for the individual?
Yeah. So, for example, like I was telling Jorge before the show, also, I was actually dating this one year ago, well, maybe 6, 7, 8 months ago, something like that, and I brought her to the gym that I worked at the time, and it was just me and her, and I wrote this workout down, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm excited, let's do it." And we started doing the workout, and she couldn't really, like, I don't like to sound like a brag or anything, but like she couldn't keep up with me, and obviously I could tell that was making her very insecure. So I was pushing her, and then I realized I was out of line. So I took a step back because I could read, like I said, I could read just everything all over her face. So I took a step back, and I just let her do her thing, and then we finished the workout, and then we did a second workout that same day, and I did something, and then she did what she wanted to do, So after that first initial workout, we did different things, but we were still in the same facility together, right? But we just did separate things because I realized I was being a little too pushy, and I've seen it happen countless of times, just firsthand as being a trainer and just watching these folks become, as you said, unglued, right? Whether it was breaking up, which most of the times that didn't happen, or just creating a lot of friction. So I was like, I don't want to do that. So I just let her.
That part.
Yeah, excuse me. So I just let her do her thing. Right, I let her do her thing for the next 30 minutes. I did my thing, and then we came back, and she was actually really happy because she was doing what she wanted to do. I forget exactly what it was, and I did something that I wanted to do, and then we were still kind of new into the relationship, and it worked out great. Like I helped her out with stretching, and then we ended up we actually had our first kiss after that, and because she did something she wanted to do, and it made her happy, right? And that goes, like I said earlier in the beginning of the show, right? That goes with like anything, right? I mean, if you're happy, right? If you do something that you want to do, it releases like feel good chemicals in your brain that make you attracted to your mate, right? I mean,
you hear that, fellas?
Yeah.
Those workout days, baby.
Yeah. So you can work out. So what I'm saying is like you can work out in the same facility with somebody, right? Let's just say like I don't know, I go to a Planet Fitness or a LA Fitness, not a CrossFit, just a regular standard gym, right? Go with your significant other to the other to the gym. Just don't write their workout plan, right? If they want to go and do bar, right? I know most females know what bar is, right? Or if they want to go and do like a spin class, let them go do a spin class. Let them go do bar,
Nice.
right? And if you want to lift weights, like if you want to deadlift 500 pounds and squat 400 pounds, do whatever, and do 3 sets of 10 at like a heavy 1 rep max or all this stuff. I'm not going to get too technical with it, but if you want to do what you're going to do, like your hypertrophy maximal strength training, right, then go ahead and do that, right? And then you come back an hour or 2 hours later and you're super compatible, right? You can, like, I could be on one side of the gym, she could be on another side of the gym, and we're doing what we want to do. And at the end of the day, right, we release those feel good chemicals, then it creates compatibility.
No,
right?
I like where you're going with that, where
Mm-hmm.
just you can work out together, just you don't have to be literally side by side doing the same workout. And I agree with you there that if you both like to be active but not necessarily do the same workout, then you can still find common ground where, hey, let's go to the gym. I'm going to do my workout. You do your workout. And then obviously we're going to go home and then we're going to be feeling really good about ourselves. And we had a productive evening. But also, you know, Nelsa, we've talked about this on the podcast before, where working out together, if that is something that you both enjoy doing, can be a great way to get to know somebody as well.
Absolutely. New dates. And in fact, in my research tonight, I want to make sure I bring this up.
Go for it.
Dating apps for healthy people, of course, right? You don't have to stay on Tinder, everybody. Nothing against Tinder, but there are different apps that help you to find people who have the values of a healthy lifestyle. So one of those is Fitify. It's a dating app. You can find it in the App Store. There is actually a dating app for athletic people.
Wow.
And they have to be athlete only dating too. Playoff is the name of that app.
No
And,
way. Wow,
yeah,
that's incredible.
yeah, I know. Isn't that
I
neat?
know that.
And then there are, like I said, like they said, is there a Tinder for fitness? But the Date Fit app, it says only shows you the best potential matches based on what you tell us. Like if you're looking for an extreme bodybuilder, a weekend kayaking partner, or someone just to help you inspire you to eat healthy. So when you go to your app store, you can actually find people who are more health aligned with you, as opposed to just thinking that you've only got so many choices, and you may not be really finding the person who lines up with your lifestyle. Because for some people, I had a friend one time who is a vegan, and said she would never date anybody because she could smell it in their skin and their breath. Like
No way.
that's how
Wow.
sensitive she was to the smell of meat, and it disgusted her. And so she was like, I can't. And she believed in like um consuming less, helping the planet, that kind of thing. So it wasn't just about the meat itself, but the
Right.
lifestyle, veganism and stuff. So it was just like, that was a hard no for her if the man was a meat eater. Like that was not something she was interested in because it was just she didn't want that in her life, and she didn't want that energy um that she got from men who were meat eaters. And I was like, so you really do need to communicate. Like so many times I know there have been women that have gone on dates and only eaten salads when they were really like, let's go over here to Cracker Barrel, one of my favorite places. Let's get us some chicken and dumplings and okra and greens. She's sitting up eating a salad, starving to death. I'm like, if you're not being for real about who you are and what it is you really want with somebody, it's not fair to the other person because you're selling a version of you that doesn't really exist. Not to say they don't like salads, but you're trying to impress somebody and cutting your meals, and then you're gonna end up being cranky and eating the Snickers like those. Are you hangry? Question. Somebody eat Snickers. You turn into a drill sergeant on the date because you're hungry. You've been starving yourself and not really being true to what you and your body need or wants. So again, like I said, I think it's all about authenticity, about good communication, and like Dan says, don't be a pusher.
Don't be a put. That is
Don't
a
be a
wonderful
pusher.
phrase to remember. Do not be a pusher. And listen,
Yeah.
I think some of the important points to take away from this conversation today is first and foremost, right? Don't ever go into a relationship and you're already trying to change somebody.
Mm.
That's just got trouble written all over it. Now,
Yeah.
if somebody that you are pursuing is saying, hey, for example, right, Dan's a personal trainer. And if he meets a girl that's like, hey, you know what, I really would like to tone up. I'd like to maybe, start a new workout plan so that I can kind of look good for the summer or whatever. Then that's
Right.
a different approach, right? Because then at that point, she's being the one initiating the change and she's seeking his expertise to help reach
Absolutely.
her goals instead
Well,
of Dan saying, looking at her and saying, hey, it's about to be summertime. Your ass needs to get better shape. That's a completely different approach.
right, right. And anybody who's doing all that and trying to control how you operate at that level, you best believe they're going to be trying some other tricks in the trade if you let them get away with that. And it's not to say that you can't snip that in the bud and find a good relationship with somebody who doesn't have everything just like you, because you don't want to be up with in a relationship with yourself, I guess. But at the same time, honoring who the other person is should be what we're looking at, not just their external value and how much they do what I say.
And
But Dan,
this is something that we want to, we're having this discussion so that people can be mindful
right,
because this has become a big part of our daily lives and society because now you have people who are allergic to things. You have people who are just, they don't like the processed food or, the whole smell of meat, like your friend, for example. So these are conversations that you probably need to have early on so that you're not moving in and then you don't really realize that, hey, this person hates meat and hates the smell of it. Now what?
right, right. But Dan, thank you so much for joining us and just
Yeah.
sharing what you've seen and heard
Yeah.
in your own experiences. We really appreciate having you. Thank you for a great story idea for a podcast today. And if you have story ideas for the relationship cycle with Jorge and Nelsa, please send those to Jorge, Jorge, and AND, Nelsa, NELSA, at gmail.com, or go to our website, www.therelationshipcycle.com, and leave us some tips. You can also um, get us on Facebook, Jorge Medina, Nelsa Weber. We love to hear from our listeners. So just tell us what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what you'd like to see coming out for future episodes. And until next time, Jorge.
Hey, and also don't forget, check out our YouTube channel. Every podcast that we do, we will be uploading that to our YouTube channel. Just search The Relationship Cycle with Jorge and Nelsa, and you'll have every episode that we've done up to this point. So follow us, check us out, give us ideas. Let's hear your input. And until next time, people, great conversation. Dan, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Buenas noches.
Thanks for joining us today on The Relationship Cycle with Jorge and Nelsa. Do you have show ideas? Email us at jorgeandnelsa@gmail.com. Follow us on Spotify or anchor.fm for more great shows.